Hello. I've developed a project for a classification project for DR2. DR2 is the game that is already live, and mostly the goal of the project is predict if a player is going to be like a high spender, low spender, or non-spender with certain percent of confidence. The project attractiveness is that if we are able to detect or predict that a player is go soon that player is going to be a high spender, low spender, or non-spender, we can launch personalized offerings in order to try to convert them. To convert them, and that will help to increase the revenues. So the target user is all the player base because it's a classification project, and why it matters is so like personalizing offers will improve the conversion rates and the revenues of the company. The current state is that we don't have any kind of personalization, so we launch the same personal offers to everybody, uh, no matter what is the progress. Um, um, into the game, if they have purchased or not, etc. So this will be a first step. The goal that we want to achieve, the outcome, is increase average revenue per user and the percentage of spenders as non-spenders. Ultimately, the goal is improve 20% the RPU and increase by 10% the amount of expenders. Uh, yeah, the constraints is that we will need to apply an online um, online predictions, because ultimately the player will start playing and making the actions, and we will need to be able to predict that in real time as soon as the player detects that. We have plenty of data of users. We have sessions, length of sessions, if they are purchasers or not, how long they have been played, what kind of things they purchased, what kind of like progress into the game they made, what modes they played the most. So we'll have all that data. So what that means that we will be able to train the model properly. We will need just to choose what is the amount of data needed in order to make statistically significant conclusions with a certain percent of confidence. Um, and we are going to do that in a way that not put all the player base, because that will be a massive cost of training the model. In order to validate the data, we will check the layers, player base, who purchase. We will validate the data with all layers. Of course, we are not going to consider as well players that purchase products and then they requested the refunds, and because of that, they became non-spenders again. Uh, and we will look into missing data. So we will check that all the features in all the observations are there. Um, so in terms of data preparation, I think that there are several features that are absolutely key. One is the location, because depending on the location, you can find different player behaviors, and we will check as well the play time, the session activity, the progression speed of these players. There's more information that we can get, so if they were expanders or not expanders, what kind of purchases they made. That can be helpful, for example, to detect if they were high spenders or predict if they are going to be high spenders. Frequency of purchases, and then we will check engagement metrics in live events, because usually live events are a good place to monetize, and good high spenders usually spend money in those. And we will check as well what were the marketing sources in order to detect if certain channels are much better than the other ones spending. Um, so we will do that as well. We will consider the platforms, because there's a big difference between Android and iOS, and we need to consider that. In terms of modeling, we will use a simple classification decision tree model with like three options. So high spender, non-spender, and non-spender, low spender and non-spender. We will use offline learning, as it is easier to implement and evaluate. In our case, this is going to be our first aid model that we are going to experiment in the company. We will use online predictions, as I mentioned before, just to send personalized offer as soon as we are able to predict what kind of player that player is going to be. And we will use Google AutoML and Vertex AI to train our model, as it's easier and faster. And when we have trained the model, we will deploy those models in our service. Evaluation. We will focus mostly in United States because it's our higher revenue country, and and different players from different countries can have different behaviors in terms of purchasing behaviors, for example, and as well as retention and engagement. So we want, yeah, yes, we want to create a model that is able to predict US, and then based on the results, we will decide. We will do tests in other countries, um, and we will check if we need to personalize that. Of course, the purchasing behaviors change over time, which means that probably we will need to retrain the model and do our machine learning ops, just to be sure that we our model works as expected. We will assess in AutoML what are the features with more correlation when we train the model, and as well, once we train the model, we will check the accuracy of the model. We will run an A/B test with some players under this under the machine learning model, and some with not without. And then when we have a statistical significant data that guarantees that the model is performing better, of course, we will assess as well the performance of the model. We will decide to deploy it. Um, of course, if the the model is not, the A/B test is negative, then probably we need to reassess the model, retrain, and look for other strategies, or check what's happening there, and until it's satisfactory. We need to be satisfactory first in one country before moving to another countries, and then when we have been successful in United States, we will test that in another countries with that model, and as well we will do some trainings just to check if we need to personalize that model per country. We will focus on the most important countries. Of course, all this process that I'm mentioning is already an iterative process in which we will follow Agile. We follow Agile currently in the company, so we will look the correlation between the features. We we will we will run tests just to check with data that the algorithm is able to predict accurately, and then we will do A/B tests. So we will be incrementally and iteratively improving, or iteratively improving the model based on the different tests that we will do. In terms of risk, we have like model accuracy bias, so a bias in data, overfitting or underfitting. We can face that situation. Uh, it can impact to some extent the player trust, but it's going to be really low because already we are showing that in our privacy statements, so they know that based on we use data to personalize to personalize the offerings. So it's not going to be a big change. There's operational risk as well as market and economic factors that can affect the performance of the model. And of course, currently, as you know, in AI, there's a huge discussion about the regulation of it. Maybe that can affect us. And that's pretty much it. Thank you.